all, it's not been 40 years. It's been 55. So my entree into the Black liberation movement started in 1964. And so I really don't know what I'm supposed to talk about right now, so I'm just going to talk. Because what we're experiencing, in my judgment right now, is the protractedness of an evolution of an idea. And this idea emerged during the period of Reconstruction, when the whole idea of giving enslaved Africans something for their enslavement, which was sold out around an idea of giving the enslaved African some land. And so Field Order number 40 introduced as a concept this idea of reparations that was sold out by Andrew Johnson. And so the period of Reconstruction begins the conversation in our imposition of becoming citizens of the United States of America. It's important to understand that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution imposed citizenship on Africans. They didn't ask us whether or not we wanted to be citizens. They made us citizens. And so we have to start understanding our relationship to the United States government in that context. And that battle around whether or not we're Americans or not American, or what is our relationship to America, has been going on for about 175 years and still going on right now. So the movement around reparations has now become a popular idea with many segments of our community who have different spins and different objectives and different organizing tactics, different organizational formations that, in my view, are not addressing the evolution of the movement in a historical context. The reparation movement has some deep layers. It has some foundational work of brothers and sisters who protractedly advocated for this idea, whose names we forget and often don't call, and don't know very much about the history of their organizing work. So many organizers today talk as if there was no leg. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So if one could just imagine at the turn of the 20th century that there was a black woman who led the first mass reparations movement in this country. And her name was Callie House. And she was out of Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. And during that particular time, white folks were getting pensions for having fought in the Civil War. And so some of the enslaved Africans felt that Africans should get pensions for having been enslaved. And so out of this discussion, they organized the National Ex-Slave Bounty and Pension Association that you can read about in Mary Frances Berry's book, My Face is Black is True, which should be a primer for all the young organizers and activists who are engaged in the reparations movement today. that should be a starting point. This is a clipping from the Chicago Defender, July 24th, 1915, where the National Ex-Slave Bounty and Pension Association filed a lawsuit against the United States government for $68 million. As a result of this lawsuit and the disruptive tactics of the United States government, Callie House was indicted on mail fraud. Most of us think that it was the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey that was set up by J. Edgar Hoover in the first case on mail fraud, but it was not. It was an African woman, Callie House. And in 1916, she was indicted and sent to prison, and the judge told her that the reason they were sending her to jail is because she knew that white folk would never give her what she was asking for. And she spent a year and a day in a federal penitentiary in the state of Tennessee. So that particular period in the history of the first mass, there were 600,000 card-carrying members of the National Ex-Slave Bounty and Pension Association, where our enslaved ancestors paid 25 cents a year for membership. So that's just one stage that we need to study. We have an absence of studying. Activism without study leads you to nowhere. It leads you to ambulance chasing. Ambulance chasing, organizing, is a weakness in the black movement. And I'll come back to that a little later on. And I'm talking kind of spiritually and reflecting as I talk about what I've observed. It's not a condemnation. It is part of the repair, full repair, that's necessary for African people. So let me just jump from 1915 to 1993. Because in 1993, there was a little unknown first Pan-African conference on reparations that was sponsored by the billionaire African, probably capitalist or whatever you want to call it, Abiola, who paid for all of the major intellectual and African reparations organizers to come to Abuja, Nigeria, April 27, 1993. And at that conference, Chinwezu presented a paper on reparations. And what just happened up here inspired me to go in my bag. Everybody, since I've been here, want to know what I have in my bag. Well, it's not your business. I have documents in my bag, and I'm always coming with documents, because you never know what document you might need in the battle around ideas, because ideas in organizing is weapons of war. So these documents are war documents. So Chinwezu said the following at this conference, in which Dr. Ron Walters was a part of the U.S. delegation, along with Dr. Jacob Carruthers. Both of them are ancestors. And they came back and gave us a report and wrote up what had occurred at this particular conference. Chinwezu said, "Let me begin by noting that reparations is not just about money. It is not even mostly about money. In fact, money is not even 1% of what reparations is about. Reparations is mostly about making repairs, self-made repair on ourselves, mental repair, psychological repair, cultural repair, organizational repair, social repair, institutional repair, technological repair, economic repair, political repair, educational repair, repairs of every type that we need in order to recreate and sustain viable black society. For the sad truth is that for 5 centuries of the Mahatma have made our society brittle and unviable. And as the great Marcus Mosiah Garvey warned over 50 years ago, if we continue, we are heading for extinction. That's Chinweizu. Now we're talking about a period in history from Callie Howard to the first Pan-African Conference on reparations. One more paragraph. More important than monies to be received, more fundamental than any lands to be recovered, is the opportunity that reparations campaign offers us for the rehabilitation of black people, by black people, for black people, opportunities for the rehabilitation of our minds, our material condition, our collective reputation, our cultures, our memories, our self-respect, our religious, our political traditions, and our family institutions, but first and foremost for the rehabilitation of our mind. So the idea of money and a check has hijacked the conversation in the reparations movement right now. It's being hijacked. Reparations mean repair. Repair means full repair for Africa. So most of our people are not aware that the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League was a provisional government, or is a provisional government. So at the height of its organizing, most people are not aware that as a provisional government, after World War I, the UNIA sent delegations to the League of Nations to negotiate the annexation of German colonies for repatriation for Africa. And they went 2 times. You can read about this in Tony Martin's book. I guess what I'm saying is, what I witnessed is an absence of study hooked to organizing. And our activism is acting without legs and foundation and historical understanding in our development of tactics and strategy, and trying to develop a united coalitional approach that represents this critical issue called reparation. So at the 1923, in Paris, France, the UNIA, as a provisional government, had secured the vote inside committee. And when the chair found out that the UNIA had the vote, they suspended the meeting. Now that's just a little point of history that we don't know anything about in our organizing work, in our different formations, in the African Socialist People's Party, in NBUF, in the new Black Panther Party. Whatever the 4 nations are, I don't hear the next wave having a historical historical connection to the organizing that took place. So in 1955, 4 years after Robeson, Patterson, and Du Bois went to the United Nations and launched the first reparations campaign. And let me point out that the 1948 Genocide Convention Treaty that was established in the United Nations, which was the second League of Nations after World War II. World War I was the League of Nations to bring peace in the world with crackers. Excuse me. I forgot I'm not in 1960. I'm supposed to talk a little different. But that's how we talked in 1960. Crackers. So the Genocide Convention Treaty was established as a Zionist strategy to lay the foundation for the Israelis to get Israel. Are you all hip to that?
Yes, sir.
So we need to study that, because that was the model. That's really the model for how Israel got the land. So 1955, Queen Mother Maud now, who had been a Garveyite at one point, switched a little bit and had affiliation with the Communist Party and had understood some of the tactics of the Soviet Union-backed Russian Communist Party, now came back to her Pan-African approach and established her and Dora Abubakar established the United States Reparations Committee in 1955. So in 1962, Queen Mother Moore and Dora Abubakar with Max Roach, and Max Roach's wife, Abby Lincoln, and a host of other activists in New York went to the United Nations and disrupted the United Nations meeting and established a petition campaign to win support of African people for reparations in 1962. Are y'all following what I'm trying to do here? I hope y'all are taking notes, because we are absent studying in our organizing. Activism doesn't mean you act and you don't know nothing. This term I read in the paper, oh, he's an activist. Well, okay, what does that mean? You are active. You're an activist if you ain't got nothing in your head. You ain't no activist. You just active. Organizing, activism, and scholarship go hand in hand. To develop tactics and strategies of organizing, you have to have your research, your scholarship, your intellectual activities that hook to your organizational development that leads to your activism. Are y'all with me?
Yes.
So right now, today, with our activism, we're in an anti-intellectual climate that produces ideas that ain't got nothing to do with us, and we don't even know. And right now, in the reparations movement, is being disrupted by anti-African social media activity. On other people who have studied us, and some of our own people aligning with the forces of white supremacy to hustle and exploit a mass idea, causing great disruption with young people on social media, hashtag, Twitter, and what have you, who are engaged in anti-intellectual discourse. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Do y'all get this?
Yes.
And my sister over there tell Yatsa Taylor I still talk the same way. And tell him I love him. I remember when he was Joe Walker. I'm just old. So, here we go. Lowndes County, Alabama. Lowndes County. Snake. Stokely became the chairman. Their tactics were taking electorally a county in Alabama. And they created a symbol. Where's my Panther sister? Right over there. Read Bloody Lowndes for the Panther, so you can know about the Panther. And where the symbol of the Panther came from out of Lowndes County, Alabama. And the pronouncement, what, I'm talking too long? Huh? What? Boy, still trying to manage me. Okay. I'm just talking, y'all. I don't know what I'm really doing.
Given the
Okay.
history of the reparations movement. Go ahead, brother.
Pardon me?
Given the historical outline of the reparations movement.
Well, somebody tape it so give it back to me so I can put it in my book, because I can't. I'm trying to write my life story, and it's very difficult to write these kind of. This is a spiritual moment, because this is 40 years of the National Black United Front, and
Put the mic up to you.
Take your time.
Hey, take your time, brother.
40 years of your life. Right.
I wish you too. See?
Oh, me too. You tired, bro. Love you. All right. All right.
I'm sorry.
All right. Excellent historical foundation. That's I've never been called. You're powerful, right? Right.
We have a lot of ancestors in this organization. So, out of the call for Black Power, a lot of us are not aware that it was Adam Clayton Powell in 1965 who in Chicago at a Methodist church at 46 in Greenwood gave a speech called Audacious Black Power that Kwame and them found out about, because in Chicago, in northern cities, to support the activism of the SNCC, there were committees formed called Friends of SNCC. And so the SNCC organizers were in and out of the city, and they heard about Powell giving his speech called Audacious Black Power. And so after Kwame had been arrested 22 times, when he came out inside SNCC, they had been discussing developing this new slogan. There was a lot of debate. But after this one time, they were just so outdone that Willie said, say it now, let it out. This was a strategy. Now, when the strategy jumped, and the white people picked it up and put it on the New York Times headline, some Negroes talking about the Black Power, the Washington Post, it shook up the whole country. So Adam Clayton Powell in September of 1966 called for the first Black Power conference at the Sam Rayburn building right here in Washington, D.C. with Maulana Karenga in the room. How many of us have the minutes of the meeting? And who was there? And what came out of it? And one of the items in that discussion was reparations. So 1967, Newark, the second Black Power conference that got infiltrated with different forces, and Clairol Hair Company gave them a bag of money. Do we know that? But reparations was still on the table. I think they beat Baraka up and had him in the street in 1967 in Newark. So in 1968 in Philadelphia, was the third Black Power conference, and reparations was on the agenda. 1969, the fourth Black Power International Conference was supposed to be held in Barbados. But the Barbados government said there was too many radicals and revolutions, so they blocked it. I think it was held in Bermuda with just a few people. So 1969, in Detroit, Michigan, the Black Left Labor Movement forces had a conference on black economics. And out of that, they came up with a strategy to focus in on the national churches or whatever, the world churches or whatever, and ID the Riverside Church, which is the most wealthiest Quaker church in the country. And James Foreman and his crew, who had been the executive director of SNCC, went up into Riverside, went down the aisles and disrupted the white people's church service and shut the church service down one Sunday morning and asked for $500 million now. And didn't stop there. For 30 days, they marched around the National Council of Churches in New York and picketed every day for 30 days. Then in 1970, in Atlanta, Georgia, in August, now we done got so black, we finally discovered that we was African. And so the Congress of African People meeting was held in Atlanta. And we was chanting, "We are an African people." We got so black that Whitney Young had on a dashiki. This is the truth. But at that meeting, once again, reparations was on the agenda. So out of CAP came the African Liberation Support Committee. Mozambique, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, Southern Africa, Namibia was on fire. And some of the movement forces went to Mozambique and asked what they could do. Owusu, Suzuki, Howard Fuller. This nigga all went back to Howard Fuller, but that's don't let us get started. But they came back and said what we could do was organize, support, and create the first African Liberation Day march, rally, and parade, May 27th, right here in Washington, D.C., and we was marching in the streets here with signs saying, "We are an African people." 1972, Washington, D.C. But before that meeting, I skipped over something because 2 months before that in Gary, Indiana, was the National Black Political Convention. 10,000 black people from all over the country. Willie Davis, I think you was trying to be there, You was a young man. I've been seeing you for 55 years. We done got old, but we ain't lost our memory. So the word protracted, for the next wave of young people, I'm begging you to study, to go get the document and not be faked out by all this social media discourse that's full of shit. So Queen Mother Moore walking the hallways and lobbying with a flyer she made up, I can hear her now in the halls in her African regalia saying, boy, reparations now, reparations now, reparations now. All in the halls, she and Imari Obadele in Gary, Indiana, March 1972, and forced the convention to put in the National Black Political Convention agenda the demand for reparations, and urged the convention to take it to the Democratic Party candidates and the Republican Party candidates. This ain't nothing new, just because the Negro are talking about it in a hearing on television. This ain't nothing new. This is protracted nature of social movements if you study them. Movements have peaks, movements have lows, movements have ups, they have downs, they have schisms. And now, right now, we're in the embryonic stages of a peak, but it's getting ready to get picked off with confusion. You know doggone well. And that's another thing. I'm through.
Go to 1980 anyway, talk about 4 minutes.
So the question is, where are we? That's the question. Where are we? You know, you just have to love our people. You want to hate them, but you just gotta love all the Africans. You gotta love them. Because we way out. This damage is deep. What has happened to us? So full repair remain. It means you got to get repaired, and it's basically how we think and how we see the world, to come back and see the world as African. And we don't know that so much of our leadership looks like us, but it's directed from a European view of the world. This is what's got us trapped. Ideas are weapons of war. And if you don't understand the ideas and this project called white supremacy, and the capturing and introduction into the Africans in the diaspora as property, as currency, as commodity, as chattel, what that did to us is what reparations, the repair is. The repair is coming back to yourself. That is the repair. So reparations is a tactical maneuver. It's not an end objective. It's tactical. So, look, I don't know what else to say. I see my friend Sim Gore. When Sim Gore was the President General of the UNIA, and don't, just because he just got a little older, he used to carry my bags too. Sim Gore made me the ambassador to the UNIA for reparations.
That's
I
right.
want to thank you. That was the greatest honor I ever received.
Still doing it.
In the reparations.
Still doing the work
Then
for
they
the race,
voted
brother.
him out. But listen, all tactics are on the table. All tactics.
That's right.
All strategies have to be coalesced. So I don't care if you're in the Worrill movement or the African Socialist Party or the whatever wing of the new Black Panther Party you in. Let's all get on the same page. And the page is full repair. That's the page. You want to overthrow capitalism, go on and overthrow it. But it's full repair. Y'all want to start a war and get 13 states? Go for it. But it's full repair. Full repair has to become the nomenclature that we push to check these Negroes who are talking about a check. We have to have a counter narrative. You know what a counter narrative is? Y'all have been to college. I know everybody in here got a degree, 2 or 3 of them probably. Y'all some literate Negroes. Don't let me call you out, including myself. So where we are right now is, look, we still do not understand how 9/11 set us back. I mean, how many of y'all was in Durban, South Africa? Was anybody? Look, and you imagine 400, look, do you know what the untold story of Durban? Let me just end here. And let me get this out, because I never have really tried, I never really talked about this in my public analysis of Durban. But the civil rights leadership in Durban was undermining what we were trying to do. And they were working with the Democratic Party and the United States government to stop us from pushing the transatlantic slave trade. Slavery and colonialism were a crime. Now that's a fact. And some of them now is talking about reparations. And one of them in the hearing, who's a well-known actor, was with him. And he now starts off his hearing saying the transatlantic slave trade was a crime. $400 people took up a conference of 15,000, 165 nations in the world. It was probably one of the most, and this was evolutionary. This was not just we did something great. It's because we followed and understood Malcolm. We understood Garvey. We understood Robeson, who all were pushing the idea of exposing the United States before international bodies. We just happened to pick that tactic and strategy based on study, based on organizational capacity to take study into activism. Are y'all with me? So look, after that, we still had a big march down here for reparations, and we had some lawsuits, Deidre Farmer Pellman, and the corporate. We was in court, and the court consolidated these lawsuits into the federal court in Chicago with Judge Norgal, and we had 2 lawyers volunteered pro se, Lionel Baptiste and Roger Wareham. They had 100. They had 100 lawyers in court to protect 20 European multinational corporations. You hear me? We had them dead to right. They threw it out, said statutes of limitations. You niggas gonna let it happen too long. And while all that was going on, Ogletree and that group, the restitution, whatever they call their group, strategized and filed a lawsuit in Tulsa. Tulsa race by 1921. They threw that out, saying it happened too long. So that's where we are right now. That's really where we are. We're making a comeback from 9/11. And it's caught on, but it's being hustled on social media. I can't say it enough. We can't let our ancestral sacrifices of having been captured over here for some Negro to hustle and exploit the deep-seated damage that has occurred to us over a check. Because you know and I know if they was victorious in 2020 and the white people decided to give the Negroes a check, you know we would give it all right back. You know that. Because the first element of repair is your mind that leads your behavior, that takes you back to your culture. So you know who you are. That's it.
If you have any questions, Dr. Worrill, we'd like to take some questions now. If anybody else want to ask some questions.
In reference to where we are, IBW has been working with the Caribbean on reparations. We have a hearing on reparations. We had the conference in Detroit on reparations. So we've got 3 pieces there, and now this panel. How can we incorporate all of these into a strategy?
The question is, how do we incorporate all of this? It's being incorporated right now. It's happening. I think we have, Brother Willie, I think we have enough maturity now, and we have enough younger people who are listening, and I think the fact that we had 3 different formations on the stage just an hour ago is an indication of that. It's happening. It's happening. We just have to be vigilant and push, study. We actually need reparations study groups and use them as a tactic around the country on college campuses. In October, the brother is having, the Youth Commission of Cobra is having a reparations online digital conference October 4th and 5th. We got to infuse into our young people that they can't be anti an election. What's the sense of going to City Hall and protest if you don't know what you really protesting about? Yes, sir.
Is there a social media movement in place?
I'm sorry.
Is there a social media movement in place to displace the false information that's being put out there by other folks?
There is what you call it, a page called the Anti-ADO page. Timothy Witt. Now, I was trying to avoid even saying their name, but a brother by the name of Timothy Witt has a page. There's 200 members on that page that just do research and monitor Yvette Cornell, Antonio Moore, William Darity, and Kevin Carter. They launching a 40-day prayer vigil Simmons College. This is Republican black college. This has nothing to do with reparations. This is suppressing the vote. I mean, I ain't no Republican or Democrat, but this is where they leading our people. They're saying if you don't get from the Democrats what we want, don't vote. That's very dangerous to plant that kind of seed out here. And you get in the bag in the corner.
I'm Timothy Witt.
Okay.
So,
That's a great contribution that he's doing. Forgot his name. That page is smoking.
Facebook page is ADOS is Anti-African.
What's it called?
We're trying to get as many people to participate, do the research, make a contribution to it, because the ADOS movement is very dangerous.
What's the acronym ANGLES?
American Descendants of Slavery.
Oh yeah, you guys, I've been on your page. Yeah, that's for real. That's for real.
Yeah, so we're looking for people to make a contribution. And what I found to be a good strategy is to analyze. I listen to Yvette Cornell. I listen to Yvette Cornell. I listen to Antonio Moore. And it's hard because they put a lot of misinformation. They mix truth in with lies and disruption. So we have to pick it apart. As Bobby said, we have to do the studying, we have to do the research, because as Malcolm told us, history is the best tool to reward our research. But it's another whole thing more. ADOS is Anti-African, join up, but we're not put up with any madness. We do have a couple people there who are ADOS supporters. But at the same time, after the truth is presented, and you continue the madness, you're gonna be cut off. We're not gonna have it, right?
Hey, look here, I'm gonna end on this, because you know, I'm proud to be a child of Malcolm. Malcolm is our man. We didn't go into the nation. Malcolm, because I guess a lot of my crew, we wasn't religious people. We just wanted to shoot a lot of hunters. So that was my crew back in the 60s. So Malcolm got our attention. And when I read this this statement propelled me into the Black Liberation Movement in 1964. This is what Malcolm said. If you are the son of a man who had a wealthy estate and you inherit your father's estate, you don't have to pay off the debts that your father incurred before he died. The only reason that the present generation of white Americans are in a position of economic strength is because their fathers worked our fathers for over 400 years with no pay. We were sold from plantation to plantation like you sell a horse, or a cow, or a chicken, or a bushel of wheat. All that money is what gives the present generation of American whites the ability to walk around the earth with their chest out like they have some kind of economic ingenuity. Your father isn't here to pay. My father isn't here to collect. But I'm here to collect, and you're here to pay. And that was November 23rd, 1964. When I read that, I was in. And we've been on this since, at least my crew, the 60s crew, we've been on this ever since. And so I just appreciate you all listening and let me run my mouth.